Hello everyone, this is part 17 of What If Naruto Had a Hug That Changed Everything, and I hope you guys enjoy this video and to like, to subscribe, to share, and check out the playlist, to see more comment down below. Now let's start the intro.
They call me a god. They call me a god. They call me a god.
Join my membership, the perks are great. It's in the description. Be sure to like and subscribe, it gives me more motivation. Enjoy. Sakura. Enough, you little bee. Touch him again and your balls are mine. ... Silence. Ino crossed her legs and her arms as she smirked haughtily at the pink-haired kunoichi beside, with both of her hands sealed tightly around her mouth. Zooms out of spot to reveal to staring faces of every living soul in that audience roster. Sakura's face turned a dark shade of pure red as her pupils shrunk as much as her humiliation inflated. She slowly cranked her budging eyes to Ino and saw her smiling with the "you so fell for it" look. Through her humiliation, the pink-haired female sunk in her seat, hoping for all of the eyes on her to go away. After an agonizing minute and a half, the eyes eventually tethered back to the action. Excuse me, the lack of action down below. Sakura stared back at the still smiling Ino with a scowl on her face. You'll pay for this, Ino. Mark my words, you will pay, she threatened with her scowl slowly molding into a sneer. Ino simple scoffed, serves you right for not seeing what was right in front of you in the first place. If anything, you should thank me for waking you up, she proclaimed. Sakura sighed in defeat, got me there. Not that I have to thank you, but, she trailed off with a faint blush. While we're on the subject, you seem to be a little more subdued every time Naruto brought into a conversation. You used to tell me how much you couldn't stand the guy, even told me that you hated him at one point. So, how do you feel about him now? Ino asked. Hearing this question, Sakura's face was once again reddened by a blush that she couldn't control as she averted her eyes downward with a smile on her face. Seeing this, the blonde female sighed and shrugged. I guess that explains all I need to know then, she said dismissively. Different question, thought. Were you at least able to get things cleared up with him when you went to see him? Sakura's eye gleamed for a second before deciding to completely ignore what Ino stopped herself from saying. Horny little bee. Well, actually I couldn't. He was still fast asleep when I came and left. I wanted to stay there longer, but I thought that I would miss Sasuke-kun's match if I did. Speaking of which, where is he? If I'd have known he was gonna be late again, I would have stayed with Naruto until he woke up, she said. Ino eyed her friend for a moment before flashing her a genuine smile. Sakura caught the smile and gave the turquoise-eyed female a questioning look. Huh, what's with you? She asked. With her smile never vanishing, Ino chuckled under her breath. Oh, nothing. Don't worry about it, she said happily, gaining an uncaring shrug from the jade-eyed kunoichi beside her. I guess, her eyes finally did open. Just then, a familiar voice called out to Ino from behind her, yo. Mind if I sit? The voice asked. Ino looked behind her and saw her good teammate Chuji carrying a huge sack of many different kinds of potato chips. Oh Chuji, of course you can sit, Ino enthused, allowing the hefty nin to take the seat next to her. Oh good, I didn't miss Shikamaru's fight, he said. Ino raised an eyebrow before looking down at the battle arena. She smiled widely at the sight of her teammate. Hey, it is him. Alright, but, hang on a sec, why is he just lying there? Back at the battle arena, Shikamaru was lying on his back with his arms and legs sprawled all over the place, a highly comical scowl on his face. God damn it, why do I have to be here? Damn Chunin exams. Damn Naruto, backbone crackles and shifts Grawu. Damn hernia, Shikamaru inwardly complained. Before long, the crowd was starting to roar with disapproval once again as they started to throw all sorts of trash at him, not that the lazy bastard cared. Up yours, all of you, he thought carelessly as he allowed the trash to land on him, looking up at the beautiful clouds. Clouds are gorgeous. Man, what I wouldn't give to just float away and become one with the clouds. Yeah, I'd be the one carrying on with an aimless passion, free from the typical bulls of my troublesome life. Then I could mock the poor souls who actually like this crap while I would live a carefree life. Oh, How I would laugh at 'em all. A content smile graced the strategist's lips as his clouded, for lack of a better word, mind roamed on. That is until Genma spoke up. All right then. Temari versus Shikamaru Nara. Begin whenever you're ready, the examiner said. Temari was already prepared to go, but that certainly didn't make Shikamaru any less useless than he was being right now. Hey, when are you gonna get off your ass and fight me, damn it, Temari snapped out of irritation. Shikamaru's face fell back into the comical scowl he had earlier. When are you gonna shut the hell up and leave me in peace, you little? If you won't attack, then I will, Temari bellowed before charging at her opponent with vicious resolve. Back at the empty streets of Konoha. The ominous. Vampirizing Kuro was making a slow and slethy trek throughout the streets, searching for the meal that he has yet to devour. To him, it was mildly irritating. He had been searching for minutes on end after he had mercilessly cannibalized the young boy he had confronted eerily. The monster searched from wall to wall, corner to corner, peak to peak, and still couldn't find them. He knew he was hot on their trail, however, the fresh and lingering scent of adrenaline and terror assaulted his senses, driving him further and further to find his prey. Though, a part of Kuro was slightly regretting going after the boy, as he could have just found him any other time he wanted, but it couldn't be helped now. Haruno. Yamanaka. Why do you resist your inevitable resting? Is it not wise to give yourselves to me as a means to avoid the horrible death you will receive in the event of me finding where you are? I promise, I will make it slow and painless if you make this easier for me. Hey 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 ha 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 ha, Kuro called out. When he heard nothing in response, the monster smiled before he stopped in his tracks right next to 3 wooden crates. It's useless to rebel, children. This sector of Konoha has been picked clean of all life except you. No one will hear you scream. No one will help you. It's hopeless, he declared before continuing his search. As Kuro treaded away from his previous area, the top covers of 2 of the wooden crates slowly opened, revealing the nerve-wracked eyes of Yuhari and Futaba. They both watched as the stalking demon slowly faded into the distance until he turned a corner at the far side of where they were. With the opportunity given to them, the 2 frightened and saddened mothers hopped out of their crates and attempted another long haul to the central building, which they haven't been able to get any closer to since the last time. Unbeknownst to the 2 women, however, Kuro was crouching at the edge of a tall building not too far from his prey, stalking them carefully with a knowing smirk. I can't believe those idiots actually thought I missed them. Sighs, not much has changed since Uncle Kuro's been away. The people of this village are still ignorant, petty and pathetic, the black-hearted Fine said before opening his mouth, grasping one of his huge canine fangs and snapping it straight out of the root of his gums without doing so much as batting an eye. This should put this ridiculous game of cat and mouse to a screeching halt. With that, Kuro held his fang between the side of his index finger and the tip of his thumb, before flicking it like a bullet down to his targeted meals. Can we make it? Futaba questioned as her and her best friend ran even harder than before to get out of that sector of the village. We can. We're gonna. FLUICCSSHH. Before Yuhari could even finish her words, the greatest pain that had even engulfed her ignited into flames of searing agony. As time suddenly felt as though it had slowed down for this moment, Yuhari peered down and saw many chunks of bone and F flying clean away from the S center of her right angle. With a horrible, blood-chilling scream, Yuhari tripped on her gravely injured ankle and stumbled upon the ground with her screaming continuing. Why Yuhari? Futaba lamented as she crashed and slithered to her knees, opting to aid her fallen friend. Kuro cackled maniacally while pointing a taunting and holding his abs. Now they're both mine. Aru God, Yuhari wreathed. Don't worry, I'm gonna get you. No, Futaba, you have to go. That monster is oncoming, the blonde woman interjected. Futaba's eye became wide and vivid before she whirled her body around only to see Kuro running right towards them from a distance and closing in fast. You're stupid if you think I'm just gonna throw your life away to save mine, the pink-haired mother valiantly retorted before lifting one of Yuhari's arms over her shoulder. Futaba, stop. If you stick around to help me, then we're both screwed. Go now, Yuhari insisted. Never. Futaba lifted her fallen friend and continued the escape attempt, with obvious results. Futaba, you have to leave me behind. Look at us, we're slower than ever, the blonde female tried again. No response. Futaba, damn it, YUHARI. I'm not leaving you. Whether you like it or not, we're both gonna make it out of here with our lives or trying. Yuhari was suddenly speechless as she stared at the valiant pink-haired woman, who was tearing up as she inwardly knew the inevitable outcome. Futaba, think about what would happen if I allowed you to and by some miracle I lived. Think about how it would tear little Ino's soul if I told her that her mother was because I left her to rot in the hands of that monster. I love her like she was one of my own, Yuhari. I'd rather by your side than survive, living through a bitter hatred of Ino. Besides, she trailed as her tears freely fell, I'd never leave a true friend, you're one of the few treasures I have left. Yuhari could no longer hold back her tearful sobs as she looked down at her useless foot. Oh. Damn it. Damn. She lamented as she was all too aware of what would happen now. HAAA. Now we end this otherwise entertaining chase, Kuro roared before leaping high into the air with his hand on his katana. Yuhari and Futaba turned to face their executioner with teary eyes. Once they saw the level of bloodlust in his eyes, they dared not beg for mercy. They both fell to their knees and prayed while they could, all the while, missing their beloved children already. They awaited the demise and cried together. Without an ounce of remorse or conscience in the slightest, Kuro unsheathed his sword and chucked it at his victims with perfect aim. Nya ha 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 ha, what the? Before his very eyes, the demon's sword lodged straight into the ground, thus shattering some of it to pieces. Kuro landed promptly in front of his sword and growled viciously. What? He gurgled before catching a different scent around the area. Kuro quickly whipped his head up behind him only to see his prized meal in the arms of another, standing high atop a building. Graha. Oh he. It's Anko, Kuro scoffed. Anko Mitarashi cradled Futaba and the wounded Yuhari by their sides as she glared kunai at the monster below, who merely smiled in return. Are you two okay? She asked. We will be. Arigato Mitarashi-san, Futaba said. Anko set both women down, being extra careful of Yuhari's injured ankle. Futaba quickly rushed to her fallen friend and assumed the previous position. You two find some place to hide. It's no longer safe for anyone in this sector of the village, the Junin informed. We already know, Yuhari sorrowfully said. What? The only living souls in this area right now are us three, Futaba informed with equal if not more sorrow. Anko's face was filled with what could only be described as rageful despair. Kusu, she cursed before looking back down the destruction incarnate known to all as Kuro, you two should leave here, while you can. Futaba thought for a minute before gently setting Yuhari down. Mitarashi-san. We won't be able to get anywhere too fast at the state we're at now. I may be able to fix all of that, but, Anko pressed on. But I'll time. The hue-eyed Junin shot a look to Futaba. How much time? She asked while dreading the answer with every fiber of her soul. Damn it. If I could have 2 minutes, just 2, lousy minutes without a single distraction, then we should be able to get out of here afterwards, Futaba informed. Anko grimaced like mad at hearing those words. To be honest, it was even worse than she wanted it to be. 2 minutes. Give me a break. With this there, even 1 minute is a whole goddamn eternity. Oh. Why me? Why me? She fretted. The pink-haired woman looked up at her savior with a serious out-of-apologetic stare. Forgive me, for having to put you in such a bind, Mitarashi-san, Futaba said. Anko's face straightened back up before hardening her stare on Kuro. Don't fret about it. Just, don't take too long. Okay, she said. Futaba nodded once before closing her eyes to concentrate. She then performed 4 hand seals and hovered her hands over Yuhari's destroyed ankle, pouring healing chakra into it. Surprised. Taking this as the right time, Anko reluctantly jumped off of the building she stood on, and landed in front of Kuro with a mouse stare. The fiend smiled devilishly. It's been a long time, Anko. Why, I can still remember when you were just a tantrum-throwing little bee, much like the rest of the Junin in this pathetic dinner plate for a village. So tell me, how has Sandaime Hokage been? It's been so long since I've seen all of you, I thought I might as well ask, Kuro said in a mocking attempt to start a conversation. In response, Anko flipped her trench coat off of her person and tossed it aside before relinquishing a kunai from her weapon pouch and assuming a hardened fighting stance. Kuro looked on in slight confusion before laughing mockingly. What? Oh come on. You don't seriously expect to fight me, do you? He asked while crossing his large arms. Anko glared. Fight you? No. First I'm gonna S you into cubes. Then I'm gonna S those cubes into smaller cubes. Then I'll toss those cubes into the hound pits and watch them choke on your putrid remains, you freak, she ranted. Hearing this bold statement, Kuro started to chuckle a little. Suddenly he stopped. Wait a second. You have hound pits. Since when? Hour. It's been a long time, Anko. Why, I can still remember when you were just a tantrum-throwing little bee, much like the rest of the Junin in this pathetic dinner plate for a village. So tell me, how has Sandime Hokage been? It's been so long since I've seen all of you, I thought I might as well ask, Kuro said in a mocking attempt to start a conversation. In response, Anko flipped her trench coat off of her person and tossed it aside before relinquishing a kunai from her weapon pouch and assuming a hardened fighting stance. Kuro looked on in slight confusion before laughing mockingly. What? Oh come on. You don't seriously expect to fight me, do you? He asked while crossing his large arms. Anko glared. Fight you? No. First I'm gonna S you into cubes. Then I'm gonna S those cubes into smaller cubes. Then I'll toss those cubes into the hound pits and watch them choke on your putrid remains, you freak, she ranted. Hearing this bold statement, Kuro started to chuckle a little. Suddenly he stopped. Wait a second. You have hound pits. Since when? Back at the Chunin Stadium. Despite not being able to witness their beloved prodigy in action, the huge crowd was actually fixated on the match below. It was true that they anticipated great things from a genin of the sand, but their expectation were indeed surpassed. Shikamaru also got those props. The level of resourcefulness that he demonstrated was far more than just luck. He was smart and cunning enough to avoid painful strikes, held his own and kept his cool. Granted, it wasn't nearly as exciting as the first match, but it was just as captivating. At least it was enough to shut the ungrateful bastards the hell up. Come on. It doesn't look like Shikamaru's even trying, Ino yelled with irritation as well as edginess. Chuji was devouring a bag of potato chips as he watched the action. As hard a concept as it is to grasp, he actually is. But the fangirl has a lot more of an attack advantage than he does. He's smart enough to know that blowing his cover while she easily S him to ribbons, is S, he said while merciless digging into them chips. Ino balled her fists. Well, if he's so damn smart, then why doesn't he figure out a way to kick the living S out of this bee and get on with it, she bellowed. Oh he will, and yet, he will not come out of this as the victor. Ironic, isn't it? It's bulls is what it is. I expect nothing less than victory from a fellow teammate. Go Shikamaru. Kick her ass to next week with a 16-hit combo, Ino enthoused with way too much pride. In a completely different section of the crowd, Asuma and Kurenai sat next to one another as they watched the match. Kurenai was heavily fixated on the situation steadily developing. From the looks of it, things aren't looking too good for Shikamaru. Then again, from what you told me, he should be able to see his way through this, am I right? Asuma. The raven-haired Junin looked over and saw Asuma with a very troubled expression, and he didn't seem to be too fixated on what was said. Asuma, what's the matter? Kurenai said with a bit of a worried look. The cigarette-smoking Junin snapped out of his troubled trance and flashed a smile to his fellow shinobi. Oh nothing. Just thinking about something, he said decisively before turning his attention to Shikamaru's match, which he had been able to observe half-wittingly through his troubles. Don't worry about Shikamaru though, he'll pull through. Kurenai eased down and turned back to the match at hand, giving Asuma a little time to think before focusing completely on his student's progress. But, I feel very uneasy. I dunno, it just seems like I missed something, or something, he thought. Back at the streets of Konoha, Anko and the monstrous Kuro stood off in the middle of the empty streets, staring each other down with anticipation. The trench-coatless Anko kept her fighting stance firm and ready, prepared to counter anything thrown at her, while Kuro simply stood there with his arms crossed and a smile on his face. For a time, the two warriors were silent, neither moving, neither flinching. Eventually, Kuro finally uncrossed his arms, but his smile remained as he slowly marched toward the now sweating Junin. You know, Anko, I can really see that the level of strength that you have acquired during my time away. You've grown rather vicious, I see, he began before halting his steps. Whn he came close. And it's true that your natural instinct to live on saved you from my wrath all those years ago, but I can promise you, this time you will not survive. The hue-eyed snake Junin further hardened her fighting stance and her glare at the demon before her. Yeah. Well, I might surprise you, Kuro, she said with a false smile that the dominant mare saw right through. I guess we'll see. Anko. I guess we'll see, Kuro said, looking down at the nervous woman. The height difference between these two was astounding. In her fighting stance, Anko's head barely reached the height of Kuro's upper abdomen. And the fact that she was standing so close to his for the first time in 20 long years, caused her to tremble a little bit. The presence of pure darkness assaulted her in a constant fashion as the standoff continued. Back upon the building next to the pair, Futaba was fluently pouring her chakra into Yuhari's ankle, which was soothed of the searing pain that engulfed it and was slowly regenerating. The blonde woman could feel the pain of her grave wound leaving her, replacing it with grand relief, but she dared not move a muscle as it could disturb Futaba's progress. As time went on, Yuhari peered down to see that Anko and Kuro hadn't begun a type of struggle yet, but she was desperately praying for her. Please, be careful, Mitarashi-san. Anko and Kuro continued their sly standoff, and the demon's smile finally dissipated, replacing it with a look on mild contempt. The purple-haired female tensed even more and further hardened her focus. After a few more minutes, Kuro launched a kick aimed at Anko's chin with lightning quick speed, but she backflipped just in time to avoid it before lunging forward and attempted a spin kick that was easily blocked by the beast's forearm. Wasting no time, Anko reversed her attack strategy and performed a leg sweep that Kuro jumped over, thus flipping forward and simultaneously plummeting a drop kick aimed at his enemy's cranium. Seeing the trouble she was in, the special Junin quickly folded both of her arms above her head, catching Kuro's heel. After a brief struggle, both fighters vanished with blinding speed. Yuhari's eyes widened greatly at seeing the level of intensity so far. Incredible, she marveled. Chunin Stadium balcony. Normally, Naruto would be more than eager to watch Shikamaru's match, especially since he was so excited to see what everyone could do that day. But after that, feeling he had been subjected to when he woke up in the clinic, he had been plagued and riddled with fears and doubts. Never in his natural-born life had he been graced with the intelligence to comprehend this intense level of great fear, nor had he ever felt such an evil presence. But that isn't what scared him the most. The worst part about it was that whatever he sensed only minutes ago was still out there. He could feel it in his bones. Even how it was extremely faint, he just had this foreboding feeling that he couldn't shake. As his mind dwelled on these feelings for a while longer, something different happened. For the first time in his entire life, Naruto's mind instantly flashed a single thought that he never consciously entertained. That they were all gonna everyone in Konoha. The blonde shinobi shook his head furiously to abolish those horrific thoughts, cursing himself for allowing his mind to travel in that direction. And yet, it lingered within his conscience, settling a deep fear into his heart. Naruto began to unconsciously shake before closing his eyes to compose himself. After a long pause, the boy opened his eyes and found himself in front of Kyubi no Kitsune's cage. Out of. What does it mean? Kit, you're thinking too hard. You should just enjoy the matches. But how can I, when, whatever it is I'm sensing is still out there? I can't ignore it. While it is true that this presence is foreboding, but do not be intimidated. You're stronger now, and your drive to protect the ones you cherish has flourished. I know, but why does this life force feel so frightening? Because it's evil, Kit. Quote. I'm going to see Sakura-chan. You're going to what? Out of. With that last decision, Naruto snapped back into the plane of reality and left the balcony with every intent on seeing a certain pink-haired kunoichi. Minutes later, within the crowd, Sakura, Ino and Chuji were watching intently at the match below as it was reaching a climactic point. Whoa, a shadow within a shadow, huh? Sakura said. Ino was growing more tense with each passing moment. Come on. Give it to her, Shikamaru, she cheered on. Chuji? Well, he just ate his potato chips knowing what would happen. The three continued to watch with interest when all of a sudden, Sakura felt a small pebble gently hit the back of her head. Slightly startled by the sudden feeling, the slender genin turned around in curiosity as to who threw the thing, only to see a smiling Naruto at the top, leaning upon the rail behind the seats. Before Sakura could give him a questioning stare, Naruto motioned for her to come to him. Sakura peered to her left and her right before staring at the black-clad genin with a blush while pointing to herself. Me, she mouthed with her lips, gaining a single nod from the boy, his charming smile never fading. She smiled a bit before rising from her seat. In truth, she was so eager to get to Naruto that she completely neglected to warn Ino and Chuji that she was gonna squeeze her ass through. Excuse you. People are actually trying to watch something here, Ino yelled. When she didn't get a response or even a reaction, Ino became slightly confused before she noticed Sakura ascending up the stairs with a blush and a somewhat dreamy expression on her face. Ino looked up into the rails and saw Naruto looking right at her friend with a smile on his face. It was enough to make her want cheer Sakura on, urging her that it was the perfect time to claim her man. But that would be kinda awkward, so she shut her raging hole. Meanwhile, Anko came crashing out of a building with minor scratches and cuts upon her body. She plunged into the ground, leaving a long indented skid across it before jumping back to her feet. However, upon picking herself back up, the luminous form of Kuro was already looming over her with a smile. You. HM. You shouldn't have interfered, Anko, the monster gurgled. Anko growled and tensed greatly as she looked up at the demented maniac. As she looked into his eyes, a lingering sense of death began to well up inside of her, causing her to sweat a little more. She clenched her teeth before locking an elbow faster than the eye could see, straight into Kuro's stomach, causing him to slightly fold over and groan in pain. After only a few seconds, the large cur straightened his face and smiled again before launching his own fist within Anko's stomach, lifting her off of the ground. At that very moment, all of the Junin's senses were nearly shattered and scattered. Her eyes practically bulged out of her skull at the sheer magnitude of the blow as she horsed up a dangerous amount of blood before crashing to the ground on her knees. Anko reeled in agony while she firmly held her aching abs, her vision slightly blurring. And I see that you haven't gotten any smarter as you grew up. Taking a direct blow from me, huh? How utterly foolish, Kuro said in a mock British accent as he watched her suffer. CWUR. You guaha. Bastard, Anko managed to choke out before a devastating punch connected with the center of her face, sending her flying across the street, twisting, turning and tumbling down the roads at positively ridiculous speeds. After only a few seconds of that horrid experience, the battered Junin quickly focused every ounce of chakra she could into her hands and her feet to stop herself. Skidding across the dirt road with an almost unbearable heat assaulting her limbs, Anko managed to stop herself completely. Unfortunately, the massive blows she had received had her terribly shaken and almost fully desensitized. Her eyes would occasionally go crossed and her breathing became shallow and labored. Her heart quivered and her lungs spasmed to inhale air properly. As she tried to stand, her knees buckled in and she fell forward, trembling astoundingly through the inconceivable pain and numbness. She attempted to rise to her feet again, but had no such luck. How? He glagore. Only had to hits that made contact. Anko reeled in agony. YMIS. So damaged. Once again, the pained Junin horsed a large portion of blood that stained the ground and both sides of her chin. Next thing she knew. Hello, Anko. Miss me? Kuro said as he stood over her. Anko dared not even look at the bear hovering above her. GQ. Monster, she struggled. Oh stop, you're gonna make me cry. But seriously, did you think that you'd be any match for me? Fool, you don't even know what real power is and you think you can take me. I'm amused by your pitiable efforts so far, but I have run out of patience, the mouse demon growled. Anko finally managed to rise to her feet, but she was shaky. Very, very shaky. The road of life ends here for you, Anko. You have reached the end. Chunin Stadium. Naruto and Sakura stood at the rails, leaning on them comfortably. As they watched the action below, the pink-haired female couldn't help but constantly shift glance after glance to Naruto, wondering why he had summoned her there. Then again, a part of her was just happy to be in his presence right now. She could easily tell that something was on his mind. Naruto, she gently called out. He responded. Is something the matter? She asked, immediately feeling stupid for even saying that, as she considered that her recent outburst a few days back could have been the cause of his silence. Naruto shot her a glance. Why? He asked, seemingly oblivious to her worries. Sakura slowly averted her eyes. Oh, nothing. You just seemed a little distracted, she said with care emanating from her voice. Naruto turned his attention back down to the arena. Just thinking about something is all, he said. After a moment of awkward silence, both genin simultaneously called each other's name. They both stared at each other and blushed. Hey, you first, Naruto allowed. Oh okay, Naruto. After the Chunin exams are finished, I wanna talk to you in private. There's something important I have to discuss with you, Sakura said. Curious, Naruto turned to his fellow genin. Is it important? He asked. At that moment, something came over her, something weird. Without really thinking, Sakura leaned forward and laid a gentle kiss upon Naruto's cheek. Pulling back immediately, the jade-eyed female made her way back to the stairs, looking at the expression Naruto's face with slight amusement. Very much so. Naruto X. That will be all for this video. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, and comment down below for more videos. Goodbye.